Hello there, this is Ron Williford, and it's time for Let's Talk Money. Today, my guest is going to be someone that I've known my entire life. We're going to be talking about bankruptcies today, so I've invited my special guest, my twin brother, Don Williford. He's going to talk about bankruptcies. Don, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me today. As you indicated, I'm your twin brother. I am an attorney licensed to practice in Pennsylvania. I have been practicing for 33 years, and one of the topics that I practice under is bankruptcies.
Okay, with this current situation that we're in, where COVID-19, I know a lot of people have lost their jobs and they're on the verge of losing everything. As a financial planner, I usually tell people plan and prepare, put together a budget, work through that budget, create a cash reserve. But I think with this situation we're in now, all that thing goes out, everything goes out the window. As I mentioned, we're losing jobs, we're losing just about everything. Besides bankruptcy, what do you recommend as an attorney for those that are struggling right now?
Well, similar to you, what I do is if a person consults me, I first look at their budget, I look at their assets, and I may refer them to you or some credit counselor to see if they can resolve their financial situation. But if not, I recommend bankruptcy as a last resort. And there are two forms of bankruptcies for individuals. There's the Chapter 7 and the Chapter 13.
Is there a Chapter 11 as well, or is that for corporations?
Chapter 11 is for corporations, and there's also a Chapter 12, which is for farmers.
Okay, so I have a lot of clients that are, they're small business owners. What would be the best avenue for them to correct their situation? Would it be looking at their personal or their business if they were to go into bankruptcy?
Well, it depends on their business, and it depends on how their business is set up. If they're a corporation and they have primarily corporate debt, then they'd want to file a corporate bankruptcy. And in that respect, you're looking at either a 7, or if they have major assets, you're looking at a Chapter 11. And if their business is tightly with their personal debt, then they may also look at a Chapter 13. Chapter 7 is straight liquidation. We try to protect assets, but if they file a Chapter 7, they will have to cease their business operations.
Now, if someone is considering bankruptcy, what's the process to begin the bankruptcy? Do you just go to court and contact an attorney? If you could just walk us through what needs to be done in order to begin that process.
Sure. First of all, an individual should contact an attorney like myself. I would go through an analysis with them. I have my own personal worksheet, and that worksheet helps me get not only financial information, but also information concerning their budget and their assets. And once I take a look at the individual, I'm looking at their household income, and their household income, depending on the number of individuals, would determine for me whether they should pursue a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13. And then next, I look at their assets and whether or not I can exempt or protect their assets. If an individual falls below the means test and they have no assets or assets that I can protect, then I would recommend a Chapter 7. Looking at the same factors, if they have regular income and say I can't protect an asset like a house, you can exempt about $25,000 in equity. If this individual has more than $25,000 in equity, I wouldn't want him to go through or her to go through a Chapter 7 because their house could be sold. So I'm looking at a Chapter 13 in that respect. But no two individuals or no two couples are the same. I do analysis of each individual.
Okay, now, one of the biggest assets that a lot of people accumulate are retirement plans, 401ks, IRAs. Is there any protection against bankruptcy? If you go into bankruptcy, are those assets protected?
Yes, well, any retirement plan is protected 100% under the bankruptcy code, and it would be exempt, and there are exemptions for each type of property.
Now, since like an IRA is employer sponsored, does that get special treatment versus an individual retirement account? Is there any special treatment?
Basically be given the same treatment, provided the person can't withdraw the money without penalty and interest.
Okay, now off the top of your head are there a lot of bankruptcies? What's the current situation, economic situation?
Well, I think individuals still use the bankruptcy as a last resort. I've been filing bankruptcies. The procedure is a little different, but even in that situation, it's a case where an individual may have lost his or her job. They're under threat of foreclosure, sheriff's sale, eviction. In that event, I'm looking to use the bankruptcy to stop them from losing their property and to readjust their debt, or completely get them out of their liability situation.
Now, how long does the typical bankruptcy last?
Okay, with regard to a Chapter 7, first of all, an individual has to get what's called a pre-filing certificate from a credit counseling agency. They can either do that online or in person. They would get that based on my worksheet, credit report. I would prepare the petition, file it, and at present, the entire process for Chapter 7 lasts about 4 to 5 months. You file within 30 days, you have a creditors meeting, which we're doing virtually these days. And then after the creditors meeting, you have to get what's called a debtor education certificate. Once you get that, sometime thereafter, running time right now is about 45 days, you'll get a discharge of debtor. Of course, a Chapter 13 is much different. When you file a Chapter 13, your plan must be 3 to 5 years. It can be no less than 3, but no more than 5. So in that event, it could take you 3 to 5 years. And in a Chapter 13, you've got to make monthly payments to resolve mortgage arrears, pay off your creditors, pay off taxes, or whatever.
So if I understand you correctly, a Chapter 7 would erase all debts, and then Chapter 13 allows you to make some type of arrangement to pay it over a certain period of time.
Right. Chapter 7 will discharge your debts within a relatively short period. Chapter 13 is a readjustment of your debts. And once you complete the plan, whatever debts you have will be discharged.
Okay. Now, has there ever been a situation where you're making a plan, you can make some type of arrangements with the creditor beforehand? Do you always recommend that, or?
Well, by the time people come to see me, their credit's not that great.
Okay.
So rather than sending them to these debt consolidation companies, I recommend that they file for bankruptcy.
Now, how long does the bankruptcy stay on your credit report?
Well, this is sort of the misnomer. Once you file, the fact that you filed, only the fact that you filed remains on your credit report. But overall, and I have reports that show it, once a person files over a period of time, their credit score actually increases after filing.
So it's not, I mean, most people think bankruptcy is a bad thing. And, we look at these old stories where if you can't manage your assets, if you go into bankruptcy, you're basically a bad person. So has that misnomer been dispelled, or is that still the stigma that most people run when they file bankruptcy?
Well, that's wholly a part of my education process. I mean, people walk in, no, 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 I don't want to do that. I'll never, ever be able to get credit. I've been doing this 33 years, and I have repeat clients. So the person files, the score goes up. I've had individuals who can buy homes within 18 months to 2 years. But bottom line, it's behavior. You know, I get
Right.
you out of debt with a Chapter 7, you've got to wait 8 years. And then within 10 years, these people, as I've seen throughout my career, they're back into the same pot again.
So it's basically like we always preach in the financial consulting world is that it's behaviors. You know, you control your behaviors, manage the debts, create, you know, the debt you create, you should be able to manage. Don't get into too much debt. But I think this current situation has made it a little bit different with COVID-19. I mean, people, in all honesty, are trying to pay off their debts. They're trying to do what's best to eradicate and get back whole again. Are there any special provisions due to COVID-19?
There are some, I mean, dealing with the mortgages, but they're outside really of the bankruptcy code. I mean, there's been forbearance agreements where mortgage companies agree not to take action against individuals. But my concern is when those forbearance agreements end, whether these people can pay back whatever they owe to the mortgage company. So I foresee some coming in just to cure the default on their loans. You know?
Wow, yeah, it's a tricky situation now, you know, with bankruptcies, you know, and things escalating. And then particularly if you try to refinance, if you're missing payments, then your credit scores are impacted. So it's kind of hard to refinance. We're just in a crazy situation right now.
Well, it's impossible to refinance if you have no income or if you're receiving unemployment. But I'm 15 minutes younger than you, and I know you probably will agree with me that this is the worst that we've ever seen in life. I mean, this is just a totally unusual situation for us all.
Yeah, I've read articles in the Wall Street Journal where there are folks that are professionals, and because they deal with people with the COVID-19 situation, they can't see their clients, so they can't make any money. So there are professional, educated people that are in situations that are dire as well. So it's impacted the entire economy in some respect or another. And you know, it's a scary situation. Right. So as I mentioned, if I called you up and I said, hey, I need to file a bankruptcy, what information do I need before I come to see you, or what should I be aware of?
Well, as I said, I have a worksheet, and that gets me the main information that I need, you know, in terms of your budget, your assets, and so forth. And then once I'm retained, I run what's called a bankruptcy liability report. And then even beyond that, I've got to do due diligence to see if the individual owns a home. I've got to do values of their home and to see how I can, you know, best serve this person in terms of getting rid of the debt and also assets protection. And that's another thing with bankruptcy.
Okay, so basically you're doing a financial consultation before you do the final. So there's some precautions or some techniques that you might be able to use to avoid bankruptcy?
I mean, I if I can't resolve it, I recommend a credit counselor. But a lot of times when I send individuals to credit counselors, they only send them right back to me. But I can pretty much look at a person's situation and determine from there what they should do. It's rare when anyone does not qualify for either a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13. Looking at their income and their assets. If their income's at a certain level, boom, you file a Chapter 7. And even within that respect, if they've got too many assets, then I'm looking, and how I can protect their assets in some respect. The biggest asset is the home, and you can per person protect about 25,000 in equity. And also, there are Pennsylvania common law exemptions. So a married couple, despite the amount of their equity, they can exempt their house altogether.
So the house can be exempt in the Chapter 7, so you can actually maintain your house, or is there a point where you've got to walk away from the house?
Well, you can maintain your house. And I'm looking at either federal exemptions, you have the option, or state exemption. But nonetheless, you still have to pay the mortgage.
Right. So you can't, bottom line, if you can't pay the mortgage, then, you might as well relinquish the house, because it's going to be basically a vicious cycle. You're going to be right back in the same boat again.
Well, in my respect, I wouldn't tell a person to just walk away from their house.
Okay.
Outside of bankruptcy, I have my various devices and ways to keep an individual in their house for an indefinite time. I think people think if I miss one mortgage payment, the sheriff's gonna, come knocking on my door. But that's not right. I mean, they have the right to defend through civil litigation, and sometimes civil litigation can take years before they get to the point of evicting you from your house.
Now, in the meantime, if you are doing all this litigation, they should be preparing themselves to be able to get back up on board again. Am I correct?
Right. Well, even if I'm going through the litigation, I always advise the client, this is no luxury trip. Even if you can't afford to save your entire mortgage payment, you should be putting some money away, because ultimately, unless you hit the lottery or through some great event in your life, you're going to have to relocate or find some other household to relocate to.
Okay. So, I think that's pretty much in a nutshell. As I mentioned, as a financial person, I'm always trying to give people advice on, live your lifestyle a certain way. Don't overextend yourself. And, as long as you're doing that, if you do get into a situation, try to work it out, make the phone calls, and try to negotiate with your creditors. But I think now we're in a situation where if you don't have any income, there's nothing you can really negotiate. Do you know of any federal programs that people can, look at that can help them in this situation? I know there's grants, unemployment, different things that are out there to put a couple dollars in your pocket. Do you know of anything any resources?
Well, I always call you. You know better than me.
Okay.
I refer some of my clients to you.
Yeah, we've been able to help quite a few people.
Yeah.
We try to stay up on what's going on and try to counsel people before, and get them in a situation where they're above water. And it's been difficult. Even my phone's ringing off the hook, and a lot of times it's just a matter of sitting down and praying. What can we do, and what situation? I've never, in my 30 plus years in this business, seen this type of economy. We look at the stock market's going up, but there's food insecurity, there's housing insecurity. It's just a complete mess out there. And I just pray for solutions for people.
Right. Well, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's very hard to tell people not to panic. In fact, I had a client pull up to my door in a U-Haul. I'm like, what are you doing? Well, I missed the payment, and they're going to come and put me out the next day. I'm like, relax. Here's what we're going to do. And she's relaxed. But the main thing is, don't panic. There are resources available. There are attorneys like myself who will at least go to the point of giving you a consultation. For me, it's not always about money. People are in need, and that's what I premise my practice on, just helping people in need. A couple words, a little prayer, it always helps individuals. And that's
Right.
the way I was taught and raised.
Now, what's the best way for people to contact you? Is there a information phone number? Do you have Facebook or social media? What's the best way?
Well, I try to be up on social media, but they can simply call me at 215-785-3241. I'm working virtually as well. You may not get a live person, but please leave a message. I mean, I have limited my contact with the public. I use Zoom. In fact, a lot of my court conferences are via Zoom, telephone. It's rare when I have the opportunity to go in court anymore. And even when I'm in court, I'm wearing a mask. Hence, that's why I don't have a tie on today. I pretty much have been living a relaxed state, and it's taken away from my anxiety as well. So,
Right, I agree. I mean, even as a professional, it's somewhat stressful. I mean, you're running into situations where you're consulting people, and you got to dig deep to come up with answers, and you got to be very creative in the strategies you put together. It's been tough. It's been very tough, this whole situation.
yeah.
In particular. Bankruptcies, anything else we need to know about bankruptcies?
That's pretty much it. That's it in a nutshell. As I said, each individual has their individual case. I would need to speak with the individual and then go from there. If you are under threat and you have a time when your house may be sold and you may be evicted, bankruptcy provides you with an automatic stay, meaning you can stop whatever action is going on. But the biggest advice I can tell you is, something hits the mail, someone knocks on your door, do not panic. Call someone. I mean, there are programs or individuals out there like you and me who, because of the way that we were raised, we're willing to help you. So take advantage of that.
Okay. So I think that's pretty much on bankruptcies today. I'd just like to thank everyone for listening in today. Once again, this is Ron Williford from Philadelphia Financial Consultants, and that's the deal on Let's Talk Money. Thank you very much for your time.